Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to Up at Night. This podcast is all about learning from thought leaders, academics, and professionals based on one fundamental question. What keeps you up at night? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Up at Night. Today, I'm super excited to have Mohamed with me. So Mohamed Hamad is the founder of Third Wunder. He's been in marketing for longer than I can think of, and someone I truly appreciate to see every time we cross paths at a conference. So, Mo, thank you so much for joining me this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Jeremiah. This is awesome. I'm doing all right. This is it's an interesting year, and a lot of things have been happening. A lot of interesting changes in the industry. Very exciting times to be in for sure.
You know what? You mentioned that, and that's definitely something I want to touch about a little bit later. Because, the speed at which things are changing right now is a bit insane. But before we jump into that, please tell the audience a little bit about you, who you are, where you come from. You studied in the US, you worked for large companies, and a couple of years ago, you started your own Third Wunder, and you have a different philosophy than many other agencies out there. So please walk us through that story a little bit.
So, I actually grew up in New Zealand. I studied in New Zealand, and I moved to Montreal around 2007. And that's when I got my first gig in a small startup. And through that, around that time, that's when social media was booming. Facebook just launched a year later, Twitter and all of that. And one of the things that was interesting about it was it was all very new, and it was very exciting. It was changing. It was connective. There was so much chatter about it, but there wasn't really much of an industry around it. And marketing at the time was traditional marketing. Marketing was billboards, ad spots, radio, print, all of that. But social and SEO and email marketing was very new. That's how I got into it. I, as someone who was trying to market an app we were developing at this young startup, it was very difficult to kind of get the reach that we wanted to working with traditional marketing agencies. So we tried to hack it ourselves, try to do all of the things that were exciting and new, and whatever that came up, any technique that we could find. And from there, I moved into a digital marketing agency at the time. There were pure play digital marketing, SEO, and performance, at which I learned the ropes. Everything at the time was fairly new, so we were just making it up as we went along. In a lot of senses, there was no hard and fast rules in any way.
I remember these years. Yes.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's like, let's try this out for a week and see what happens. It's like every week was throwing spaghetti on a wall and
see what sticks, see what works for customers. And
absolutely. And from there, that's when they got acquired and they got bought out by iProspect International. And that's when I decided to go on my own path. And a couple of years later, after freelancing for a couple of years and acquiring a few nice clients, I said, okay, let's push this a little further. And that's when Third Wunder was born. So Third Wunder, digital marketing agency here in Montreal. We've been around for almost over a decade now. And it's all about having fun with our clients.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's really awesome because I know how hard it can be to do that transition from, working in the agency world to starting your own, margins are razor thin, very competitive landscape. Why did you decide to start your own, and how do you consider yourself different from other agencies out there?
The reason I started on, when we first started out, the reason I decided to expand out was because, one, it was hard to do everything as a freelancer on my own. I had a very wide breadth of knowledge after working so many years in that space. And there's only so many things I could do as a freelancer, but I had bigger ambitions of doing a lot more. So that's when I partnered with my ex-partner, and we built out the company a little bit more gradually over time, just picking up different types of clients and moving forward. Um, the one of the biggest things about marketing that I really enjoyed, well, at least the digital side of marketing, there's the creative side, and the traditional marketing and the creative side, but then there's the analytical and technical side. And digital marketing is the marriage of both. There is how to build ecosystems that capture and captivate your audience. And then there is the messaging and the visual identity and the storytelling that's on the creative side. And then the intersection of that becomes very data analytic, right? Like, how do you take the information that you get from the technical side and move it over to the creative side to really tell stories and create narratives that really engage your audience, right? So it's really that intersection that's really interesting. And having a background in development and project management and the creative side of the arts, I kind of grew up in. My father's an architect. I studied architecture. I was going to be an architect, but I ended up in this side of the world, in this industry. But again, the one thing I take about that is architecture is creating experiences that people enjoy and move around in with passion, and that's what creating digital experiences is. People move around the creation or the environment that you build for them, and it's all about that.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that you mentioned that, in my opinion, is really becoming not just a role anymore in a company, but a critical skill I require many of my employees to have now, which is, like you mentioned, project management and just
Mhm.
time management and organizational management in general. And I want to jump on that opportunity to have your perspective on that, because you've been professionally managing projects. How does that evolve, and how did it evolve recently? And how do you foresee that becoming something more and more important in an era where we barely have the time to keep up with all the innovation that's coming into market?
That's a great question, and it's a really interesting thing because my major university was project management, and before I came to Montreal, I was working in the government of New Zealand as a project manager and coordinator. And the old school way of looking at project management, those waterfall methods, PMP, Prince2 methodologies, and all that, does not work for how quickly things move, the iterative cycles. And then you got Scrum and all of these new ways of and agile methodologies and all of that. In terms of how to keep up with that, it's a communications game and it's a focus game, right? It's really, how do you not get shiny object syndrome when there's so many things coming at you, like keeping to that true north of when a project is supposed to be delivered and how do you get there, but always keeping communication alive to make sure that, like, whatever happens or whatever that shiny object or whatever that outlier comes along, you take note of it and you use that in the iterative step in the next phase. Because if you keep diverting your way or keep moving around too much, you're just not going to get anywhere. So it's a bit of a focus thing. In terms of time management, that's always a thing that's everybody's going to be struggling with.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a forever challenge.
Now, we came in the marketing world, I would call as digital native, right?
Hmm.
We jumped right into it. Like you said, in my previous career, same thing. We were testing a lot of things. We were trying a lot of things. And that's where that expertise evolved into, proper known jobs nowadays. When I look at what's happening with AI, when I look at what's happening with social and the pace at which everything evolves, I'm having a hard time keeping up myself. What's going to happen with all this?
That is the $1 million question. I don't even think that the people that are creating this stuff know where it's going to go. It's kind of like the early days of social. We didn't know that it's going to be this billions of dollars and, like 2 billion people on a social platform. Who would have thought these numbers? And it's the same thing with AI. It's a wait and see kind of game, and just play around. And again, I feel like I'm back at square one with throwing spaghetti on a wall and seeing what sticks. Because by the time you think you figure out something, a whole new thing, an old new paradigm, a whole new tool, a whole new way of using it comes out. And I think this is the exciting phase, where we get to play around a lot. And again, it's all about play at this point. Trying to create a hard and fast rule about something that's is moving too fast. It's the stage at which anybody should be just playing around and see where it goes.
Yeah, it's that ever evolving MVP situation where you got to try
Exactly.
many things and accept that a lot of them are getting retired quite fast. Internally, let's talk AI. What did you implement it internally to test this, to encourage your people to, stay open-minded about that? Is there anything you started using where you see a lot of values? So where are you at that stage?
We've been playing a lot with AI because it's being jammed into every tool, from design tools in Figma and Canva to project management tools like ClickUp. Gemini is encroaching on all the Google Workspace suite. It's really, at the end of the day, and I think to the frustration of my team, that I'm starting to get that shiny object syndrome where I'm like, hey, let's try this out and like see where that goes. And they're like, not again. Can we stick with something? But this, like I said, this is the fun stage. This is the stage where we get to play around and see how we can turn things around and turn things faster, or fill in the gaps. In terms of what we use it for, or what we've been using it for, I'm of the mind that this is a tool. Use it as a companion, use it as a way to validate ideas, maybe brainstorm, fill in the gaps of, not everybody has 100% day, but if you can have an AI that can, pick up where you forgot something, or highlight something that you missed. So for me, it's more of a validation tool. It's more an ideation tool. And the scaling of it. How do you move faster? As someone who also has a background in development, the core principles are kiss and dry. Keep it simple, stupid, and dry. Don't repeat yourself. So keeping it simple is, try something small, try something iterative, keep it light, keep it simple, and move on. And if you find yourself repeating yourself a lot with the same task, dry. Don't repeat yourself. If you have a tool that can do the thing for you without you doing it yourself over time, there you go.
Very simple methodology, but still quite relevant and efficient, especially in our day and age. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you the following question, because a lot of people who watch this pod are often new entrepreneurs, or they're thinking of doing that move. Before building, the solid foundation of customer that allowed you to launch your agency, you started as a freelance. Can you please tell us a little bit about these years, from the moment where you went from the mindset of I'm employed, I have stability, I got a salary, to, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own and I'm going to do the jump. Please walk us through that and tell us a little bit about these years. Was it easy? Was it hard? How did you manage that?
My foray into freelance wasn't by choice. The buyout from the agency that I worked with had changes, and this was also in the wake of the 2008 crash. In saying that, it was very difficult. I'm not going to make it sound glamorous in any way. You got to go out there, you got to hunt for your clients. You get the sense when you're working in an agency that things are a little easier when you're working as the person just handed a client and handed a project and you just got to deliver, and you have this idea and mindset of abundance, and which is great to take out there when you're first starting out, because an abundance mindset is key to, growth. But in the beginning, learning the chops of how to sell, learning how to listen, because you come out there hard and fast, especially young entrepreneurs, so full of ideas, so full of like solutions to every problem. But really, the thing that I learned the most is, step back and listen to the client and listen to the things that they don't say as much as the things that they do say. Because the solution is in the pieces. It's the space between the notes, as BB King would say. And really take that time and understand what your clients want and use that to innovate, as opposed to making an assumption about what an audience would want and then going out with a hammer and try to smash every nail.
I love that. And I think a lot of people are missing this point in the service industry. It's not about finding the right solution that is a cookie cutter to make everybody, fit in this space. It's the nuance behind understanding the real needs and the real struggle of your consumer and customer that will allow you to come up with the right product and the right solution for them. Thanks for sharing that. So walk us through the process. I'm just curious. You're there, you're starting, and there's something that you mentioned that really interests me, which is learning how to sell yourself and to sell your services. So how did that go?
That was interesting in the fact that everybody starts to sound the same to every client. Because again, every freelancer is selling their service. There was a dearth of marketers coming out fresh on the scene. Everyone's talking about the same thing: SEO, social, this. We're going to do this for you. We're going to triple your growth. We're going to, land you whatever. It's the same cookie cutter message that everybody has. At the end of what I realized, one, networking, absolutely the best way to, one, meet other people that you can collaborate with. Two, being present. Showing up is 90% of the job. Showing up to everything, showing up to, and back in the day, showing up in person, being there, actually meeting your clients face to face, shaking hands, looking at body language, moving around in their office spaces, being seen makes a big difference as to the receptivity of your ideas, and who you are. And that's pretty much 90% of it, just showing up and being present.
Yeah, it's interesting because someone who was on the pod, Karen, was saying like that if you do these three things, you do more than 90% of the population. Show up on time,
Yeah.
and deliver what you promised.
Yeah.
If you can do these three things, you're in the
Trifecta.
10%.
Yeah, that trifecta is harder than most people think.
It is. It is. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Thanks. It's a great reminder. You've been, in business for quite some time. 10 years is, people think it's smooth selling at this point, but we all know that there's always curveball. There's always new stuff that we need to take care about, worry about. What keeps you up at night these days?
This is a very tricky question because there's a lot of moving parts right now, from global economies to our neighbors to to transitions in the industry in itself. We talked about AI, but there's a little bit of excitement and a sense of optimism. If you're getting into entrepreneurship, you have to have a little bit of optimism to keep you going. And I think the transformation that we're going through right now with AI is going to be a huge changer, one in the ability for us to do a lot more with less, but also to rethink our relationship with the people, and how we work together in the creative pursuits that we're after. So if you take away the low hanging grunt work that is what we would consider, billable hours, how do we remove that layer and then really focus on the creative and the mind expanding work that we can output that's a higher order. From development creativity to design creativity, storytelling creativity. How do we kind of take away if you're a copywriter and you got to write 250 social posts, what if you take that away and now a copywriter or a social media manager can think of like campaigns? How do you tell big stories? That is the exciting part. And at a secondary degree, global markets are opening up in different ways. We are now can't rely on, one sector of the world or one group. And I think being able to be receptive to business from all around the world, from different cultures, different languages, different regions of the world. And I think that will really open us up for ways to market better, to understand and empathize with different regions of the world, really understand. And this is the listening part. How do you listen and understand different cultures, different mindsets, different backgrounds, and work with those, and be able to communicate that way?
I agree. There's always a lot of opportunity in times of uncertainty. And we definitely have a lot of challenges, like you said, from political challenges, economic. There's a lot of opportunity out there for those who are smart enough to listen throughout the noise, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I saw on your website that I would like to know if it's still ongoing and where the idea came from, which is the Third Wednesday webinar. I found that very interesting that you give away information, so to speak, to people who are willing to take it. Where did that come from? I love the idea.
The webinar was something that my team has been harassing me to do for a long time. And one thing I realized, and actually, your podcast was an inspiration there. You've talked to a lot of people, in your industry and around it that to tell their stories. And I had a network of freelancers and business owners and professionals that I've worked with over time. And they always come to me with like insanely amazing perspectives. And I thought, you know what, let's try this out. And I tried to do a play on words with Third Wunder and the Third Wednesday webinar, and just things came together. And I thought, let's give it a go.
It's pretty cool. And you know what? Meaningful and priceless information that flows like that is always something I love to hear about. So I really want to congratulate you on taking on that initiatives. I think a lot of people need to hear quality content. There's a lot of crap out there, so to speak. So yes. I'm glad you took the time to build that initiative. So Mo, thank you so much for joining me today. For those who would like to have a bit more information, obviously you can go check Mohamed Hamad LinkedIn. I guess it's probably the best way to see and get in touch with you, and thirdwunder.com as well. Is there any other social platform that you prefer?
No, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me and see what I'm talking about. I've got my own personal newsletter on LinkedIn that people can subscribe to. Third Wunder has got its own newsletter on LinkedIn, and you can also find us on our website, thirdwunder.com. And looking forward to connecting with everybody that sees this. And thank you for taking the time and having me on your show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Mohamed. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of the Up at Night family. If you've liked what you heard today, don't forget to rate, follow, subscribe, or leave me a comment below. New episodes of Up at Night drop every 2 weeks. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. I'm Jeremiah Curvers. Until next time.